Pam, is Scott Wynn planning on?
He's probably going to withdraw based on Mark's interpretation of his site. Mark thinks he already has approval and it's just a zoning permit. So that's
That stuff going to Litchfield? No.
It doesn't matter. It's indicative of facts, you know?
we're live, George, and it's 7.
All right.
If Craig tries to get on, I'll mute myself and I'll assist him.
All right. Okay. All right. Well, let's call the meeting of the 27th to order. And I think you've got a list of everybody's here. So with Craig not here, then let me, Will, I'll seat you tonight with us.
Okay.
And of course, they don't have a big public comment section, obviously. Agenda review, I'd like to suggest that we talk at the end of the meeting about after other business. We're finding more and more issues, small issues, but still issues with the zoning regulations. Some of it is in the glossary and other things that we've already talked about with the map, the zone map boundaries. There's some issues that it appears that Steve Sidlowski took some efforts here to expand it beyond what we had actually talked about. So if we can, we'll add that if that's not objectionable to under C 11C, if that's all right.
Yeah.
Okay, we don't have any public hearings. Pam, you're talking about 6. The Scott Wynn may withdraw the application because of Mark Mullinson's interpretation.
Yeah, Mark, just for the other benefit of the other commissioners, Mark, at last meeting, the applicant has said that this has been in use since his father purchased property in 2003. At that time, the zone was known as the CX zone. And Mark, when they did the demolition, I guess it was negotiated at that time that that's the reason they were purchasing it, according to Mark and the zoning regs at the time. You didn't need a site planner to go before P&Z to open the type of business that Mr. Wynn is operating. So
in the CX zone.
Yep.
Scott, when he talked to us at the last meeting, he had indicated, at least my recollection, I see the minutes say he had in the minutes at least been operating his business, but I thought I recalled him saying he had stored materials there and just recently had discussed and had improved the appearance of it to start running his business out of there. But it is what it is, and what Mark's being paid for. All right, well, let's go into item 7, which is new business. It's PZC number 20-05, site plan application 210 St. Ange Road. Applicant Borghese Building and Engineering Company Incorporated. Owner is R&M Insulation LLC. Proposal: construct a 10,600 square foot office storage garage building for R&M Insulation. First of all, Pam, do we have input from any staff? I know this was, I think the date of the application that you received was what, the 23rd?
yes, yep.
So have you had any time for the staff to respond to this?
Only Jim Rollins as part of the wetlands approval. Jim Rollins had looked at it for, just to weigh in on tying into the drainage. So he provided an email and it's been loaded. I don't think the commission received a paper copy of that, but it's up on the website if you want me to quick get us there.
If you could, if you don't
Sure.
mind.
Let me get you there. 1 second. You'll see that this is Jim's email from March 11th.
Okay, so this is his reaction. He did look at the contribution of stormwater from this site into the existing system, and it appears to be acceptable. And the anti-tracking, okay, that's fine. That was in the plan as well. That the existing stone access point would be serving as the entrance area. So it's just anti-tracking pad, so we don't have so forth coming out into the roadway. Okay, fine. So Alan and
Tony,
you want to go ahead and make your presentation? I think we've all got hard copies, Alan, of the plan.
Right.
okay, Alan Borghese is speaking. I will make this as brief as I possibly can. In a way, this is a relatively simple application because we are so far under the requirements for all aspects of this. First of all, the lot is 4.75 acres in size. The maximum coverage of the building allowed is 30%, and we're only at 5%. So it's 1/6 of the allowable. Maximum height of the building is 70 feet. We only have 22 feet. The impervious area is 75%, and we're at 12%. Again, about 1/6 of the allowable. The parking per requirements is 6 spaces, and we're showing 14. And the building is going to be substantially a warehouse for his trucks and his insulation that he gets in, with some minor offices in there. And I believe it was 2 toilets we have?
Yeah.
1 and 2 toilets. And so it's relatively a simple building. We have masonry walls protect the metal siding in the lower few feet, which Borghese always likes to have to protect the buildings, because if they get dented, they don't look well. It's got an office area in the corner with windows and a glass door, and the rest of it basically is overhead doors and a loading dock. Other than that, it's a pretty simple building, pretty straightforward. So I'm here to answer any questions you may have on that.
Okay. Well, why don't we start with the commissioners, and everybody had an opportunity to look at the plans?
Yep.
Okay. Peter, why don't you, can you kick it off what your thoughts are?
Yeah, I like it. Very nice. Looks very, landscaping looks very nice. Was there going to be any fencing around the dumpster? Was that my question? I saw tree plantings around it, but no fencing. It wasn't enclosed.
I think we weren't gonna have a dumpster, were we? Or did you show?
No, we do show a dumpster. Hold on a second. I'm going to tell you if that is true. I apologize, because originally, oh no, we do have a screening around a dumpster. I'm drawing SP3.
You've got planting, Alan, but you don't have a fencing for side fencing enclosure. That's typically what we've been looking for.
I'm sorry, did you understand that? I didn't
You said you
understand.
got plantings around it, but not a fence.
Oh, you want fence and plantings?
A fence without plantings is fine. Gotta be enclosed.
Oh, I'm sorry. Usually, most towns rather, well, let me say to you, if you would like to see a fence, we will install, you can make this subject to us installing a fence, and I'm sure you want a gate in the front of it then?
Absolutely, yes.
Yeah.
Yeah, we typically, I know what's going on today in a lot of communities. I know what I've done recently is getting into a black mesh with slats And it just, you know, I don't know, it looks better than just the plain metal. But we've
And I
like to see
apologize
if
for,
it's
yeah, assume it was slats there. You like black slats? Is that your ideal?
all in the black mesh, the black chain link.
That's fine.
Okay, go ahead, Peter.
No, that was the only thing that was my concern, you know, just because of, it is borderlands, borders the woods. You know, there are a lot of bears around. There have been a lot of problems with bears with dumpsters. And plus, if it's open without gates, you could have anybody and everybody throwing trash in there nights and weekends when there's not anyone around. So that was my concern. We've been requiring full enclosures on pretty much all our site plans and any reviews we've been doing. Other than that, the design looks very nice.
Thank you very much.
Jerry, what about your review?
I was just trying to find the lighting on the drawings here, the outdoor lighting.
The lighting is on SP3, the same drawing as landscaping.
They didn't show any cuts of the fixtures at all that I saw, nothing on the pole heights. It referenced, refer to the site plan as far as the height of the poles, and I couldn't find that on
Now,
there.
that's not correct. On SPD2, it shows a parking lot light, and basically it's a square fixture. Take a look at SPD2.
Yeah, I see it, but it doesn't give you the wattage, and it doesn't give the any cut on the fixture itself, Alan.
Give me a moment. Let me see if I can look at that. One moment.
See if it does, Bill? I'm getting the audio, I'm not getting the. No. I'm supposed to be a participant, I don't think I am.
I'm on the phone with my electrical designer. We're talking about a 70-watt LED fixtures with full cutoff. Is that adequate information for you?
Yeah, well, I think that what we'd like to do is just have a submittal that shows what it is, so that, you know, if it gets inspected in the field, that it is in fact what you've indicated it would be, but that's not difficult.
Same
No
with
problem.
building.
Absolutely.
How about the height of the poles, Alan?
I've got that on the drawing, I believe. What height poles we normally use on that? Those are 20-foot poles.
20-foot poles? Okay. On a what, a 2-foot or 3-foot?
On a 2-foot
Base.
pedestal, correct.
Okay.
And I just wanted to confirm, there's not gonna be any lighting on the building itself attached to the,
No, there are lighting
There are
on the
six.
building. And the lighting on the building is specified. Hold on a second, I've got that in my spec.
Filing stuff. I just started.
There's six on there, Jerry, that I saw on the building, I think.
Yeah, that's what I saw on there too.
I'm trying to find that.
There is lighting on the building.
It looked
The only
like,
thing we don't have is, we don't have a cut sheet on the
On the building lights,
or the building.
George, what drawing was that on?
There are a total of 7 LEDs on the wall packs on the building. They're 26 watts.
Okay.
right? We usually get a cut sheet on those, Alan.
Okay, I'll get you a cut sheet on those.
Well, we summarize it here at the end, Alan, so that, Jerry, what else did you have? Anything?
No, that's it. That was the only thing that popped out for me.
Okay. Art, what did you have?
Well, the lights, I wanted to know the cut sheets and then the enclosure. That's what I saw.
Handicap access,
Right.
parking, that's all.
I seen all that. That looks good.
All right. Will, how about you?
Well, we're all talking about the lights, but in the loading dock area, that door, is there a light there?
There is one light there. You'll see that light. It's next to the door on the right and left side. See those? Excuse me, right, I'm sorry, right over the door. There's a
Right
square
over
box,
the
like a
door.
rectangle,
All right. That's at the loading dock?
right at the loading dock itself, correct.
Okay.
Right under the word 25. You see it?
Oh, yeah, little, all right.
So all the building lighting would be consistent. So when you do a cut sheet, it'd be for all of those.
They'll all be the same.
Okay. All right. All right, part of our responsibilities here, there's 2 pages worth of notes. So let me just run through them because there's a few things that
You still there?
these are all regulations that we have for site plans, and they're on page 51 and 52 of the regulations. So the survey date is current. The site plan submission criteria 3, which is all of the information block, that's all acceptable and meets our code requirements. One thing it's you got Dufour that did the plan, but there's no stamp on it and there's no certification that it's an A2 survey.
I think I stamped all the plans.
You stamped it as you as the engineer.
Yes,
Okay, but there is no certification that it's an A2 survey. That's the easy thing to
I have one. Let me get it to you.
okay, just so that it's in the file that we're complying with our own requirements. I'm just going to go down the list. Everything under the 3 listing, not going to go through what they are, but 3 small letter A is there's no signage shown on the site nor on the building. Is there any intention to use any signage?
At this point, we have none.
Okay, if you do something on the building, obviously you just comply with the sign regulations, but if you wanted something on the site,
Well, certainly.
you need to, get it approved through the planning and zoning office because that's part of our site plan review.
Okay,
Tony, what would be the hours of operation?
Probably 6:30 a.m. to 5 p.m., 5:30.
How about a number of employees that you expect to be included? These are all requirements just that we have on our, it's not something we're picking out of the,
I would say at the moment, 15.
okay. Now you've got truck traffic, you've got a loading dock, and you've got obviously a hammerhead where your tractor trailers could come in and turn around.
Yeah.
So that's the only, it'll go to your loading dock is pretty much what you're anticipating, right?
Yeah.
Okay. I know a lot of projects that I've worked on, you've got a nice landscaping plan for what you're proposing here. what I've been using, what I've been forced to do through the years is come up with some kind of a maintenance bond so that the plants, at least you maintain it for a year. And if you don't within the year, if everything's fine at the end of the year, you get your bond back, which typically we ask for a savings bond, which instead of fooling around with a performance bond. Is that acceptable?
Yes.
Yes.
Well, it's just something, you just have to come up with a plant schedule that makes sense, and then the labor to put it in if they had to be replaced. So obviously it's not, I can't imagine 100% gone, but so that's something that I would like to see as a condition if the rest of the commission is acceptable to that. We've talked about the dumpster, so we need a 4-sided enclosure, and you do that in the black slats. And typically what we look for is something that's going to be at least 1 to 2 feet above your highest dumpster height. So, I mean, a typical, at least, I don't know how many yard dumpster, that's not a big dumpster enclosure. So what would you put in there typically, 6 yard or something?
6 or 8 yard, that's correct.
Okay, so that probably a 6-foot fence would probably be satisfactory. But if you have something that's going to be, pushing the limit, we'd appreciate having it, protected from visibility.
How do
We talked about signs. You don't have any signs that are proposed, and if you did, on the building, you just comply with our regulations. And I noticed on the site plan, your stormwater system goes into some piping, and it looks like it goes into a dead end, which obviously it doesn't, but the plan doesn't show where
That pipe, George, that pipe discharges to the surface at the end there.
it does discharge to the surface. Oh, okay, all right.
And to be very candid with you, it's a little bit clogged at the end. It's silted over the years, but it does discharge to the surface.
So then it's just a surface drainage that goes down toward the main industrial park and that ravine.
That's correct. It bubbles up right now.
Okay, all right. Okay, let's see. I don't know, Alan, you do much building in Massachusetts?
I'm sorry, please?
You build in Massachusetts much?
No, I do not build a Massachusetts.
Any commercial building in Massachusetts, if you've got an overhead door, they require a floor drain and an oil water separator system. Are you doing any floor drains or oil water separators in here?
Not at all.
No. Okay.
No.
You need because you're storing materials in there, do you need a sprinkler system because of what you're doing?
In this case, with Tony's storage in there, first of all, the building by code does not need a sprinkler system. And his materials are substantially fiberglass and other non-combustible materials. He does have some foam products, but they're in containers and there's nothing combustible there. So this meets code.
Okay. Looks like the entire roof system drains to the west side of the building.
That is correct.
So that's what your stone is and the fabric on that side?
Yep, it's a stone absorption pad and a dispersion pad.
So you won't have gutters over there that
I will not have gutters over there.
actually those things are usually have to be replaced frequently, but as long as you've got enough capacity for the absorption of water coming off because it's a single slope roof, I presume, to the west, correct?
That's correct.
So you got over 10,000 square feet of water, and you'll get a lot of water off of that roof.
Correct.
Now your stormwater treatment system that you've put on the plans, it says there are going to be regular inspections. How would
That's
you,
correct.
who handles the inspections?
Well, the manufacturer has a inspection, and Tony understands that he has to take care of those.
And who keeps the records of it that should be accessible? If this is a requirement and it's necessary, and you find it necessary through your engineering evaluation, that who maintains those records?
Well, in this case, R&M Installation is going to have to do that.
Okay. So they would have to be available if their building department or inspector needs to take a look.
Absolutely.
You were just in front of Wetlands?
We went to Wetlands actually twice. We made a slight change in the design. And they were happy with both of them.
Okay, so do we have a definite or a decision from them, Pam?
Yes.
Okay, so that should be part of the record. Okay.
Yep.
Okay, that's all I have. How about the rest of the commissioners? Any other comments?
Everything looks good, George. I think everything got covered.
Okay, if you don't mind, I'll go ahead and I'll make a motion because I've made a lot of the notes here that I have written and I can give that to him. But I'll make a motion. We don't have any other further discussion with the commissioners. Is that the case?
None here.
Okay. All right, so I make a motion to approve application 20-05, site plan applicant Borghese Building and Engineering Company Incorporated, owner R&M Insulation LLC, location 210 St. Ange Road, proposal constructed 10,600 square foot office storage garage building for R&M Insulation. In evaluating this application, the Planning and Zoning Commission has relied on information provided by the applicant, and if such information subsequently proves to be false, deceptive, incomplete, and/or inaccurate, this permit shall be modified, suspended, or revoked. 2, the Planning and Zoning Commission approves the site plan pursuant to the submitted plans and drawings drafted by Borghese Building and Engineering Company Incorporated, dated March 5th, 2020, entitled R&M Insulation, 210 St. Ange Road, Winchester, Connecticut, dated 3/5/20. Scale as noted, including the following sheets: SP1 site plan, SP2 site plan, SP3 landscaping, lighting, and layout plan, SPD1 site plan, SPD2 site plan, A1 elevation drawing dated 10/19/18, and A2 elevation drawings dated 10/19/18. In addition, the survey needs to be annotated that it is in fact an A2 survey from Dufour. We should add the requirement for a landscape maintenance bond for 1 year. And what we'd prefer to have is a savings book placed with the town for 1 year from completion of the project, to be returned upon a final inspection that all the plants have survived and or corrected to be per the plan. The dumpster enclosure will be a fence that'll be at least 1 foot above the highest container that's installed in it. It'll be 4-sided, so it'll be a gate and 3 other sides, and it'll be in the black mesh and black slats. We need cut sheets for the light poles and fixtures with the wattage and the type and so forth, and the same thing for the wall packs that are on the building. Let's see. And that the stormwater treatment system will, the records of inspections will be maintained by R&M Insulation and available for inspection by prior arrangement with the zoning enforcement officer. That's all I have, unless we have something else that I missed, commissioners.
I think you got it all.
I'll second that motion, George.
Okay, any further discussion?
George, did you want to put a value on the passbook savings, which you?
Well, I don't know what the value of the planting is, so I'd like to give the applicant the opportunity of giving us a realistic number, and you know, including labor to install it, and then we can work that out through staff. If that's acceptable with the commission.
Yes, it is with me.
As long as it ain't 50 cents.
No, it's got to be realistic, or we'll have somebody's head in the department.
What I can
All right,
do,
all-
what I'll do, I will give you from an engineering letter saying what the value is, okay?
That'd be good, Alan, because you already called out the type of plant you have and the size and so forth, so it shouldn't be That's what we usually do, is look for the engineer of record to provide us something.
I will take care of that.
All right, good.
Good.
All right, all in favor, show a hand in front of your camera.
All right.
Well, you're approving it too. That's what I like, an applicant that wants to get it approved. Okay, we've had I think I've got I don't see, who's in by phone only?
I did. Craig.
That's me. It's Craig.
Oh, you're on. Okay, Craig, welcome to the show.
My countenance didn't come through. I'm sorry.
All right, okay. Jerry, I don't see you on the screen. Are you somewhere?
There.
Okay.
Somewhere in the ether.
All right. So Pam, I'll give you this paperwork. I'll scan it in and send it over to you with what I just included. So we have it as a record that goes into the file.
Thank you.
Okay, so you got approval. We just need some things to be done, subject to that coming into the office, and the staff can handle that, Alan and Tony.
Thank you.
Okay,
Thank you.
Thank you very much, all of you.
very good. Take care.
Thank
Have a
you.
good night.
Stay healthy.
Polly.
Okay,
Yeah,
we got the April 13th minutes that Pam has sent along to us.
I'll make a motion to approve the April 13th minutes.
Second it.
Okay, any other comments or changes that have to be made?
Yeah, I have a comment, Pam, on my comment regarding the solar array. I also had mentioned about the fact that you have heavy metals and toxic materials such as cadmium that have a tendency to leak out of these solar panels over time. So add that in with the forestry issue there.
Sure. Yep.
Okay, any other additional comments? Okay, all in favor?
Aye.
Hands, very good.
I'll abstain.
Okay. All right, Craig abstained. Is that you, Craig, that abstained?
Yeah, I was not there.
Okay. Let me see. 9 communications. We got the letter that came in from the Conservation Commission. Did everybody see that?
Yes.
So Pam, you had some comments because this has to do with the pervious and impervious issues at the lake. Do you have any comments at this time, or you want to?
Yeah. You may recall that I had mentioned an uptick in patios being installed around the lake, where, grassy green lawns that were abutting the lake walls were being replaced with pervious paver system. Well, and we have some applications on the agenda for tomorrow evening's zoning board of appeals meeting, and one of the neighbors had pointed out an area in our regs, and when I first saw it, I'm like, yeah, no, she's right. And then I brought it to Mark's attention, and he kind of had the same reaction that I did, that no patios within 20 feet of the water or 9 feet of the side property boundaries.
Mhm.
So I actually think we're covered, and I'm, after, I can point you to the page in the regs. It's, page 14.
Mhm.
And, it's just like decks. Patios should be treated just like decks. You know, if you fall closer than, you know, so those patios that, you know, have been only going before wetlands, should have been going before zoning board of appeals
For a special exception,
for variance.
for a variance, okay.
Yes, our regs only allow them outside of, you know, they don't have to meet the rear property boundary line setback requirement, but they do have to meet the 20-foot, you know, so there is some flexibility, you know, from a hard, fast determination from a structure. You know, I think you folks had built that in to allow for some development, for some decks. You know, a lot of those homes don't meet the rear yard setback. And so, you know, folks naturally want to enjoy the lake view sitting, you know, in their backyard. So, you know, you had eased up the setback requirement in that respect. But Jen's letter was perfectly founded, and I think we have, you know, we already have a way, and that's interpreting the regs as they should be interpreted.
Okay, well, that's good. No, you're on top of it. I appreciate that.
Good. That's good. It's there.
Okay. What do you have for, you have another report too, additional information?
Staff report, I've sent a request, an email request to the Winchester Hotel property, 398 Main Street.
Yeah.
They had some additional signage. We have nothing in terms of zoning permits. They had come before you for a special permit application for multi-use, and we've yet to get any kind of zoning permits or sign permit requests for what it appears that there's some retail store already operating from the corner.
Yes.
But we don't have any information on it. Then just this week, there were more signs going in. So I expect to have something by week's end.
Okay, all right. Nothing else on the, were you able to serve the North Main, or not North Main, but?
I know 920 Main Street, Canava. No, I haven't gotten a hold of him yet.
Okay, all right.
You know, he's, that too is going to be addressed.
Okay, all right. Any other additional things you can think of? But Mark is back right now, right?
Yes. Yep.
Can he move around?
No, he has, he's still, he's back with light duty. He can do desk work. We have, and he's not completely back full time. He has some visits, physical therapy visits. So we still have the building official that was filling in for him. He's continuing to work and do those field inspections as needed.
Mm-hmm.
And believe it or not, his schedule, he's Bill Velosky is the other building official, and he's working, you know, 2 good full mornings a week. You know, he's scheduled, you know, pretty full. He only stays as long as he's needed.
Okay, all right, but we're not holding people up though.
No, not at all. Not at all.
Can we get him to open the restaurants and everything?
I think that would be a great idea.
How about the beauty salons in here?
Yeah, I hear you.
Wow.
I was looking at Art, thinking that.
Yeah.
Sorry, I gotta get sheep shears.
Yeah, right.
I was gonna give Art some of my hair.
Yeah, right. I don't need that. I'd be end up wearing ponytails and pink ribbons.
Oh, man. All right. Okay, is that it for your report, Kim?
Yes. Yep.
Okay. Okay, other business POCD discussion. I asked everybody to kind of put something in writing in the areas you were going to take responsibility for. So we haven't seen anything. So if you could put that together, maybe send it to Pam so she could make a distribution, just so we got something to move on when we really get together in person in a work session.
George, did you get the ones I emailed to you?
I haven't seen it, no.
Oh, okay. I did that at least a month ago or more. I'll email them again.
Okay, thank you. Thank you. Okay, short-term rentals, we want to hopefully we'll be back into a real environment here so that we can sit down and talk about that, because there's a lot of people in town that have an interest in it and don't want to act like we're, or even have the appearance of not taking those interests at heart. One of the things, I talked with Pam this week, we've got some areas that are zoning regulations, and I see the glossary is one thing. I'm going to spend some time and go through it. There's some things that we've overlooked. They're not, they could be conflicting, and so I'll do a little homework since we've got so much area we can get out and freely move about in. But we still got, and this came up the other day in looking at the gateway. I don't know why this gateway grew as it has, but North Main Street, was it go all the way up to Walnut Street, Pam? I can't hear you, Pam. Did
Yeah,
you?
I'm sorry. I'm pulling it up right now in case you want to reference the GIS. This
okay.
way everyone can look at their screen and see it.
But we've got the thing we talked about on the west end of Route 44. We've got it on the same problem on Route 44 coming into town from Ledgebrook that goes all the way up to the
Town line.
well, but it goes up to the road there where Northwest Regional was fronted
Right.
up. And that wasn't our intention. It was always, some of the properties might touch 44, but it was only properties that immediately abutted Route 44 that were going to be gateway. And then on North Main Street, Steve somehow squeezed in all the properties, including residential, from North Main to the west. If we're looking at Route 8, you know, as the north-south. So we got to look at that more closely. Somehow that got by us. We didn't see it. We kind of took it for granted. He was doing what we asked him to do. And it might not have been him. It might have been the people that did the GIS. I don't know.
So I have that pulled up, George, if
Okay,
you want
so
to.
the so the yellow is Gateway, and you can see where it's going. It's you see where from Wet goes up to Walnut. That was never that. And Craig, you're on. If you're not on the screen, but we never had it going all the way at all, taking all the residential and everything else. So that's something we ought to look at when we can get together in person.
Yes, definitely.
Look at a good definition of where this really should.
George,
Yes.
and Craig, you would probably remember when zone changes are made, they're published, okay?
Mhm.
Put in a newspaper for so many days, then a hearing, it's open. Anybody wants to discuss it, they come to the meeting, etc. So if somebody doesn't come to fight a zone change, it's not grandfathered. Am I correct? When a zone is changed, say from an R1 to an R2, it's published, you have a public meeting, no one shows up, and 2 years later, person wants to do something, and we say, no, you can't because you're now R2. You don't have the footage, you don't, whatever. Am I not correct?
I
Whoa.
think that part of the problem with that, Art, is that the government agency, us, would have created a hardship for that property owner. If it was a pre-existing lot, I believe that they'd have very little problem getting approval to be able to do what they needed to do based on the previous zone. I think that's, we might have to get a decision from somebody, but
My interpretation always was that if they previously owned before the zone change,
Yeah.
that they were allowed to do by the previous zoning regulations when they purchased the property.
'cause
I
otherwise-
share that. I share that sentiment.
yeah, because otherwise we'd be creating hardships for a lot of people that it'd be an expensive proposition to challenge it in Superior Court and or getting in a lawyer and so forth to do whatever. But But that's a good question. So we get a reading on it because we did change our zoning substantially as far as the,
Are you referring to potential uses or existing uses? Because a use can be, it would then be existing non-conforming. But if it was a potential use, a use that they always kind of knew in the back of their minds was there, and they thought, well, maybe, you know, I bought this because maybe someday I'll do this, and then the zoning regs change and that use is no longer permitted, and it was never a use that they were enjoying, then no, there's
not
no claim to it.
yeah. But
You know, they can seek a zone change, you know, if they butt another zone,
Yeah.
or a text amendment, they could, or, you know, thirdly, you know, variance, because currently our zoning regs don't prohibit variances for uses,
Mhm.
which we also should. The, you know, ZBA shouldn't be giving a variance for a use.
No, I agree. I remember Pearlie Grimes talking about that at one of the applications they were involved with, about that it's illegal to get a variance for use. But anyway, that's something we need to go over. I'm going to do a little homework on our regs because there's some things that still, even though we had a lot of eyes looking at it, there's still some things, and that doesn't mean just because one or two overall, let's do it again, that we're going to catch everything. But
Well, it's like what you're referring to where Steve extended these gateway.
Mhm.
Okay.
Yeah.
So now the gateway's in residential and people say, well, I want to put a business in there and tear down a house and build a business.
Mhm.
But it's all residential and it's a house that's in the middle of all these other houses.
Right.
What do they do?
Well, I know that's the problem. When I saw that, I wasn't aware of this the problem existing. And then when I was talking to Pam, I said, holy mackerel, what a mess.
Well, that's what I'm bringing up. You go up North Main, all those houses.
Yep.
One of the houses in the middle says, well, I'm going to open up a business. It's Town Gateway. So now you're saying he can go ahead and open up a business, and the other residents around him say, well, I don't want that.
Yeah, that's a problem. But
Right, like you see these properties right here
Right.
are resident, you know, there's no businesses right here, and yet what you could have, because they're in Town Gateway, I'm not sure that you intended that, all
We
those
did not.
properties along Walnut.
No, we did not. We never did that.
Right, and that's what I'm referring to. It's just like, you know, they're all residential, but because we changed it to Gateway, they now can do whatever.
Well,
Right.
I think there's
They
more of a
could-
sense of urgency with that particular problem, Art, that we should get that underway to get that map, because there's the stuff on the west end of town, and this thing definitely up here. This is a severe violation of what our intention was.
Yeah.
Craig,
You know, and furthermore, like in Town Gateway, those are really all commercial uses where, you know, some people might think, well, that's terrific, but it's not terrific if you wanted to convert, you know, a duplex that had at one point been functioning as a single family, and yet it could very easily function as a two-family. Two families aren't allowed in Town Gateway.
mhm.
So it works both ways. It's not just that.
Yeah.
Well, they
You know,
could put in a rooming house.
You know,
It's not appropriate to be up there in Town Gateway. It's a mistake that was made, and I don't know how it needs to be corrected in my mind. What's
Probably
everybody
gonna
else?
We're probably going to have to go to, who's the lawyer that we use?
Oh,
Mark
Brands.
Mark. We're probably going to have to go to Mark and ask him about that.
Well, it's what they could do within it, but I think we ought to get this thing underway because we got to notify the COG. We've got to notify our budding towns.
Yeah.
Schedule a public hearing for it. So I think we should get that underway.
Yeah, well, I know.
At least for these map boundaries.
So you're proposing taking away all the gateways or just the property?
No. Willie, what we, Craig and Dave Villa and I worked on this thing with Stedlowski, and then we had a consultant from Cincinnati. And what we
Right.
proposed to do was have the gateway continuing along Route 8 North, but only the properties that immediately abutted.
Okay, so you're just gonna take the properties off that don't butt Route 8.
Yeah,
Okay. That makes perfect sense.
I mean, they're already, if there's resident, because there's homes along Route 8 right now that, they pre-existed our zone change.
Mhm.
They are, just grandfathered, but be able to operate the way they are. But if they at some time, because of the traffic level, they decide to want to change, I mean, that's a corridor that's got a state highway down through it. It makes sense to utilize that corridor, and you got sewer and everything there. But is that everybody in agreement? We should put something together to get the ball rolling here with getting these boundaries squared away on this.
Yes.
Yes.
Okay.
Oh, I agree.
All right.
Well, some of them really make sense, like the Maloney Court extension. Why is that gateway?
Well, that's one of the issues.
Yeah, exactly. Exactly. That wasn't our intention.
No, it was not.
Well, Pam, I guess I'll have to make an appointment to come in and we'll just go over that map and, but we've got to get this thing going so we notify the appropriate places.
George, do you and Craig have one of the original maps we had that listed Town Gateway?
That would have been Sadlowski would have had it at the office because we all worked on those maps in the office
Right.
and drew them out. So I don't know if Pam, if you have any of that stuff around.
Yeah, what is it? I'm sorry. I
It
missed
was, we marked up, the whole commission worked on the boundaries on one of the big maps. Don't have them, huh? Okay.
But you're gonna do it again, so.
Yeah, we definitely, yeah. All right. What we could do is, well, let's get the ball rolling about what this is, and before we launch anything, the rest of the commission has got to see this and agree with it to move it forward. So let me make an appointment with you to come in and keep our social distances that works.
Okay, we'll print some big maps.
Yeah, well, I mean, we've had sewer and water meeting in the selectmen's room live, so we got enough room in the town hall, we could do that, so. All right, anything else that we didn't add to the agenda that anyone would like to bring up?
I was just wondering if there was anything on ECAD at all from the town attorney?
No, there's some time, because of the COVID-19,
Okay.
that's a ways off.
Okay. Anybody else have anything?
No.
Motion to adjourn then.
Second it. Oh, I'll make a motion to adjourn.
Okay, thanks, Will. We have a second? Okay, all in favor? Here we are. All right, thanks, everybody. Stay healthy.
Good
Have a
night.
good night.
And Pam, I'll just put this together, scan it in and get it down to you. But
Okay, yeah, thank you.
okay, thanks, everybody.
All right.
Good night. Good night.